It's my fault. I'm so
No,
sorry.
it's not. It's mine. I'm telling you, it's mine because I think I tried to connect to my channel, and I think that's where I screwed up. So it's
Um,
good. We're here now.
yeah, we are here, and this freezes on my end. So this is why I was trying to avoid. I don't know what to do. I need like an IT guy. Do you have an IT guy? I need somebody to look at my settings.
I'm my own IT guy. I'm my own IT. I'm my own finance. I'm my own marketing. I'm my own everything person.
Oh my
So.
God. Right? Look at this. It's live now. We're live, Amaryllis. We're live. All right.
Oh my goodness. I was like sweating bullets. I'm like, why is this not working? But I have this problem whenever I try to go live on Facebook. If I try to do it through Zoom, if I try to do it through OBS, there's so many technical platforms out there. And then when you try to like do it, it just doesn't. I'm going to blame it all on Facebook. Sorry, Facebook, but.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let me look and email you back. Tell me, okay. What's up, everybody? I'm Kristen Gutierrez. I am a best-selling author. I am an entrepreneur helping other entrepreneurs, and every day is a challenge in the world of entrepreneur land. I'm here with my good friend, Amaryllis. What's up? Tell
Hi.
me how awesome you are, who you are, where you are, all the things.
Hi, my name is Amaryllis Correa. You may see me online as Amaryllis Parga. That's my married name. I kind of go back and forth between the two because I haven't officially like changed it from a business perspective. So I just use both last names now. Anyways, I'm located in Florida, in South Florida. You're from Florida, aren't you?
No, Indiana.
Indiana, but you lived here for a
I
little bit.
did.
Yes.
I
Okay.
missed
Sorry.
it. I
Yes.
missed the humidity and the rain showers.
I could deal without the summer humidity, but I love it here in the winter time. Like I'm definitely not complaining about that in the winter time. I'm originally from the Northeast, so I'm a Yankee at heart. I grew up in Connecticut, and I moved here. How long ago? Oh my God, it's going to be 8 years. No, I moved here in 2017, August of 2017. So 7 years. It'll be 7 years in a couple of months. And it's been a whirlwind since I moved here. I came here with a corporate job. I was working remotely. I was doing sales for a tech company. I actually met Kristen in working in sales for a translation company, translation/tech, right? I guess there's considered part of the tech world. And a couple of years into my time here, I was part of a major layoff that happened with our company. And at that point, I was like, what am I going to do with myself? And I was like, okay, well, I could either decide to look for another job in corporate America, even though my heart was saying, no, don't do it, because I just wasn't into it anymore. And then, I said to my husband, I was like, I can go look for another job, or I can make a go at what I want to do, which is start a travel business. I had started my travel business kind of like I was playing around with it in the August of the year before, but I wasn't doing anything with it because in my mind, I was like, oh, I'm going to work and I'll do this kind of part-time. And when it gets to where I want it to be, then I'll quit my 9 to 5 and work on that. But I wasn't giving it the attention. Huh?
That happens to so many of us.
Yeah.
It didn't happen to me because my situation is totally different. But so many people I talk to now, they're like, oh, let me do this while I do that.
Yeah. But the reality of it is, and it's not that it's not possible, because it totally is possible. I don't want to like poo-poo on anybody who's thinking about doing that. It's just you get caught up in your 9 to 5. I worked a lot of hours, and I wasn't really giving any attention to my business the way I needed to. So my husband, thankfully he's been so supportive, and he's like, I think you should go after what you want to do. Like don't just don't go looking for another job if that's not what you want to be doing. Like, we can do this, we can figure this out. So I started my travel agency and I hit the ground running. I like decided what I was going to call it. I went through all the first, the initial steps, getting a website made, doing all that other great stuff. I put myself out there. That was probably the hardest thing. I have to say, there's been some really hard moments in this journey, on this roller coaster ride that I call, being a small business owner, entrepreneur. But I think the hardest thing to date, and this might, I don't know if other people will agree with me, was kind of putting myself out there and saying like, hey, I'm stepping away from this corporate America job, like moving up the ranks, like this whole thing that's been my identity for so many years. I'm stepping away from that, and I'm going to take a stab at getting my own business going. I think in addition to that, because I was doing a travel agency, I got a lot of people who were like, is that even a thing? Like, do people really use travel agents? Like, what?
Wait, let's pause there. Hold on. You're flying down a path, and like, I keep wanting, like, we gotta make this a little more dynamic, but like, because you're talking about so many good things that so many people actually experience, and you've worked through them because you said yes and you figured it out, but so many people are stuck. You can't go back any further than this, but it's like they're stuck at this point of putting themselves out there. Like, really. So like, we'll come back to the rest of your story. I want to hear it. They need to hear it. But like, whether you're stuck doing what you did, which is like releasing yourself from this corporate identity and then stepping fully into it, all of us have a different path as to why they're where they are. My path, it happened for me, as I say, I got let go. Same day I launched my business. I had no choice. But other people choose to walk away, and then they want to write a book, and then they still have problems telling the world about their book.
Yeah.
Like, they still have problems telling the world of how awesome they are. Mm-hmm. How awesome they are. So do you remember, like, how did you overcome those things? Like, what did you have to do to?
Honestly, I just took the plunge. I think, I heard somebody say this the other day, and it's like the perfect analogy for this is like, just jump in, because the water's not going to get any warmer waiting on the sidelines. Like, if you're worried about jumping in because it's cold, guess what? It's going to stay cold. And the longer you wait, like, the more you're missing out on the opportunity to kind of move beyond that and move on.
That's so good. Because I often say the line in the sand for me in this 2.0 version is like, yes, like, I am everywhere. Thank you. Because nobody else's opinions pay my bills. And I know that is like, that hits people. I knew that saying, it didn't hit me before. So my 1.0 version of being an entrepreneur last year, I was still dipping my toe in the water.
Just like hoping that as you get in deeper, it's going to feel better. It doesn't. Just jump in, and you will swim. You will figure it out. And you know what? The reality of it is, here's another thing I've learned over the course of the last few years is most people, you're worried about like everybody and their opinions of you and what they're thinking. And they're like, oh, this person is doing this, like, she's crazy, this and that. And I got some comments, but the reality of it is most people are consumed in their own lives.
No, they're not thinking about you the way you think that they're thinking about you. Yeah,
exactly. Like, how and I mean this with all the love in the world, but like, how self-centered of us to think that everybody's looking to see what we're doing, right? And I will also say, yes, you might get some people who make comments, but one way that I have learned to deal with that is no one who's doing better than you is going to put you down for trying to improve and do something new. No one. That person who's running a successful business is never going to put you down for making this attempt or trying to do this. If anything, they're going to offer some guidance and some advice. The only people who are going to put you down are the people who are sitting around doing nothing with their time.
The people in the back, like, the people doing better than you are going to lift you up. They're going to be like, thank goodness you're finally ready to give the world everything that we know, everybody on this side of the fence knows that you're capable of. Like, why
Exactly.
have you been hiding this whole time? How can I help? What resources can I give you? What can I do for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So just, I know and there's a emotional and mental thing that goes on that kind of keeps you from taking that plunge, but you just do it. Don't, like, just go for it. That's what I did. And I will go back to the whole point of stepping away from this identity that I had created for myself working in corporate America, right? Like, I was so tied to that identity. And I have to tell you, there, for, I would say, maybe 6 to 7 months, even after I decided that I was going to start this business, I still struggled with that departure,
Mhm.
because in my mind I was like, oh my God, like, that was such a big part of who I was, that now I was like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, how do I present myself? Um, and even still, like, calling myself like the CEO of my business, like, it felt daunting, right? Like, I was like, who am I to think like, oh, a CEO? Well, yeah, I'm the CEO. I run my shit. Excuse my language, but you know what I mean? Like, I have to run this. I might not have a staff, I might not have 4,000 employees. I may not be, have a board and be, publicly traded, but I have to run this. I have to make it work. I have to figure out all of the pieces and the next steps. So I get to call myself that. Regardless of what anyone else thinks or doesn't think, I get to call myself that.
All right, couple nuggets, right? So, like, yeah, imposter syndrome
It's
is
real.
real. No matter what we're doing, who we are, where we are, the thing that we're impostering over. But yes, I've had the same thing. My 1.0 version of me was like, this is like weird. But
Yeah.
like my 2.0, so I too, like, I think that was like an 8-month stretch where I was cash collecting anyway out of necessity, and I leaned into a system that's amazing, and all the thing. I had mentorship, and I had paid a lot of money for people to help pull me along and be in a community, which are all great things. But I still had imposter syndrome over comparing myself, because now when I hear you say that, like, it's kind of funny. Like, can I scale to $100 million without 4,000 employees or being
Of course.
publicly traded? Of course, right? So, like, I'm comparing myself anyway to these mega corporations, and like, that's not even what our brains do to us. It's not even right. No, and you're the CEO of your house, of your family, of your business. No jokes intended. Like, we had difficulties. My bad. Maybe you said you're bad. I know too. But like, getting here live, I don't have so and so down the hall to call to be like, yo, help me out with this live. It's me, myself, and I.
You and me texting, trying to figure out how to get live, how to go live. And I will say, I think too, something that I started thinking, I've gone through so many mental obstacles in this process, which has made me incredibly stronger, I have to say. But I had the great fortune in my corporate career to work with some very, like, super smart, motivated people. I did. I can say that I can name off quite a few, and I'm grateful for them because they taught me a lot. But I also remember seeing some people who run like multi-million-dollar companies and be like, how the hell did you get this job? Like, I, I may not have your experience, but common sense, hello. Like, so I think sometimes, we think because people have certain titles or certain positions, it makes them more qualified than we are. And that's not always necessarily the case. Right. So I think, I'm almost sure that anybody in corporate America can say that they've had really great coworkers or really great managers or leaders or whatever, and then they've had not so great and smart ones.
It happens. It happens. It happens, especially the older you get, the more you look, work a few different places. Okay, cool. So what else is part of your story? Because then I want to go to, like, what are you up to now? But I interrupted that flow.
No,
So
that's okay. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. So 2019, I started getting some clients. In the travel business, it's a little difficult because we work a lot like real estate agents or realtors, right? Where the money you make, it comes like much later on. We're making money after people travel, and oftentimes you're working with clients a year in advance, so it's a little difficult. So I started getting clients in 2019, and I was like, okay, 2020 is going to look better because all this money is going to start coming in, and I'm going to be doing great. And then we know what happened in March.
Dun. Yeah, I got pregnant. That's what happened. But there's other things that happened too.
In the travel world, everything got shut down, right? Like March 2020, the world shut down. And much like real estate, in the real estate world, if your client doesn't close, you don't get paid. Well, if your client doesn't travel, you don't get paid. So all those clients that I was working with now were not traveling because everything was shut down. So I had to go through all these cancellations. And I literally went to I just saw all those future earnings just dwindle down to nothing, right? And I think too, my initial approach to my business was very short term. Like I was like, I'm new to this industry. I don't really know anything about being a travel advisor. I don't know how the industry works. I'm just gonna learn. I just threw myself in and I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. So my I had very short term vision, and it was all about let me just get some clients and get the ball rolling here. I hadn't really kind of thought about bigger picture, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go with this business. So in March of 2020, when everything shut down and all of a sudden I had to cancel everything and I lost all this future revenue, I was like, I really got to take a few steps back and think about this differently, because this is not going to, I can't, if I'm always at the mercy of external forces, I'm really going to suffer. I'm never going to be able to make this successful. Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to take some steps back, pivot, kind of start thinking strategically how I wanted to approach this. At that point, I met my business coach that I have, and we started talking about implementing planning fees to help kind of front load some of my revenue, right? So that I'm not waiting so much time to get paid. But so I put that into practice. I started really looking at focusing on selling more group trips and hosted group trips, because it allowed me to scale faster. Mm-hmm. It allowed me to generate more revenue. And so I went through this course on learning how to really, curate these group trips. Again, I was new to the industry, so I was trying to figure out, I knew sales techniques, I knew marketing techniques, I had worked in corporate America, so I knew I could carry that over, but the ins and outs and the technical parts of the job, I just didn't really know. So I learned that, and then I took that course, and the next month, I went out with a group trip to Croatia for the following year, because I was like, everything's gonna open up. We're gonna be able to get back out. And I sold out that group trip. And I was so excited. I was like, okay, I'm back on the ball.
Wait, let me ask you, because I don't come from the industry. When you do group trips, do you go?
Yeah, these are hosted group trips.
Oh, crazy. You must really like that stuff. Okay.
Oh, yes, I love it.
That's my worst nightmare.
What, taking a bunch of people on a trip?
Yeah, well, especially being responsible for them. But
well, you contract a tour operator with a guide, and they really kind of lead the way, but you're there for your clients to assist them with whatever they need. Yeah. So then a couple of months later, then I started talking to more clients. I think people were getting itchy because they wanted to get out and travel, and in everybody's
it's a hard time frame. Yeah.
In everybody's mind, they're like, 2021, everything's going to go back to normal. We're going to be fine. So a couple months later, I then put together a group trip for Japan for the following year, and I sold that one out too. So I was like, okay, I'm on a roll here. Let me just keep going. And so that was kind of like the start of me really deciding that as an agency, I was going to focus on group travel. But I also recognized that I needed to get a little bit more niche in terms of, all right, yeah, I'm doing groups, but what is the outcome of these trips? Is it a luxury trip? Is it Is it more an education trip? Like what's the point? What am I doing here? And one of the things that I've always been fascinated by is different cultures, learning
Mhm.
about them, experiencing them, really kind of getting immersed into them and being able to connect with the locals. And so I decided that I was going to become the person who really curated these itineraries and these trips that focused on the cultural aspect of travel. And so actually that kind of happened before the Japan trip. So when I curated this Japan itinerary, I went about one of the things I had learned in this course was how to make your itineraries unshoppable, meaning so unique and so different
Oh, I
that
love
no
it.
one can go out there and find another company who's offering that same exact thing. Could someone do it? Yes, but when you approach your itineraries from a perspective of this is the niche, this is what I want to focus on, here's how I'm going to put it together. I really am fascinated with like these unique experiences that help you just leave you nostalgic when you think about that
Yeah.
location.
But let's pause there for a sec. Okay. So you've just narrowed in on in corporate, sometimes it's called differentiators,
Yeah.
but like in general, right? It's like you are like a translation agency, a dime a dozen. No matter whether as a coach that coaches entrepreneurs, I am a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
Anybody can buy what I'm selling from other people. But what makes, and then, I've got products and I've got systems I sell, and sure, there's a smaller niche of people who do itineraries to Japan that look like XYZ in your case, right? But it really is that layer underneath of like stepping into our authentic self, like saying, like, what is it that makes me love what I do?
Mhm.
And wouldn't you know it, you still haven't even touched all the people in the world who love the specific things about travel that you do. You've already lost me as a client. I'm just going to jokingly say that because I'm not into group trips, but it doesn't
Well,
matter.
at that point, I hadn't eliminated doing individual clients. I was still working with individual clients, but I knew that from a messaging perspective, where I
Yeah.
was really going to focus on was this idea of cultural travel as a group, right? Like
Yeah.
as either with your friends and your family that you're going to create these memories with, or if you're kind of maybe you're a solo traveler, but you want to go to some of these places, but you're kind of a little weary, then you could join my group and come with me and
Love
a
it.
bunch of
No,
other
yeah,
people.
and I love it. And truthfully, it doesn't even need the qualifier because it's like narrowing in on your niche and then getting really specific about what it is the thing that calls people to your voice then.
Right.
Because we can always still, now that I have the skill set of coaching, doing workshops at corporations, I can teach what I know to somebody else who maybe they want the system I'm selling or not, but like they want to partner with me because they feel called to my voice.
Yes.
I think that's the thing is like you've stepped more, and this only comes after this big say yes moment, right? Your say yes moment was 2016, 17. You're slowly stepping into it, and you had to take a bunch of imperfect action along this journey that we're telling the story, right? And now we're in what, 2022, for example. And so I can't do the math that fast.
No. I started in 2019. So yeah, it's been 4 years.
Okay, so 3, 4 years into that portion of it, right? Now you're iterating, you're innovating, you're pivoting, you're saying like what's working, what doesn't work, what do I like fulfilling, what's profitable. Like you're allowed to be a business owner too, right? I mean, there's a whole business side of it. Like
Yeah.
how am I not spending my nights awake with phone calls and text messages, because all of our industries are so different. But
Setting
the thing I'm
boundaries.
pulling, I'm just pulling from no matter who's watching this, is like the thread that there's differentiators in it. And so,
Right.
okay, so here you are,
So
culture.
So yeah, I think, I look back on 2020 and, you know, I think 2020 was a hard time for any kind of business and not just mine, right? And I could sit in that and dwell on that and be like, oh my God, like I had to cancel all these clients and I lost all this money. But I think what 2020 offered me, and I'm grateful for it, was the opportunity to like pause, reflect, take a step back, and pivot. And I think sometimes we're afraid as business owners to pivot because we think that it means that we failed.
Yes.
And the reality of it is you're going to fail a lot. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's there's a podcast host, his name is Stephen Bartlett or something like that. I can't think of his name. He's a British guy, and he has a podcast, and I was listening to his podcast one day, and he said it so well. He was like, failure is great. He's like, because failure, he goes, if you fail, that's information. Information is knowledge, and knowledge is power. Sorry, my dog is going crazy.
It's life.
And so when you look at it that way, like failure ultimately leads to power, right? You kind of remove that icky feeling around it, like, oh my God, and we're all allowed to fail. What's important is that you get up, you pick up, and you move on, and you take that information, you put into action, and you move on.
Oh my God. So, because if we don't fail, failing isn't okay. So now you've jumped in the ocean or the water because it's going to be cold anyway, and your toe's going to warm, or your half body's going to warm, and then this is going to warm, your head's going to warm. So you might as well just jump in. So we did that. But then it's like, maybe I don't swim right away, right? Or maybe a big wave comes and it knocks me over, if we're using that analogy. But it really is true that so many of us accidentally, because of the society we're in, if I'm a travel consultant, I compare my beginning to your now middle, right? And I'm like, well, crap, I don't have all of this figured out. And so that means I can't get started. Mm-hmm. And so many people fail to say yes and then work through the figure it out stage.
Right. And some people think that they have to have it figured out before they move on. And the reality is you can only take one step at a time. So just take the first step and then take the next step and then the next step. You don't have to have everything figured out. I definitely didn't have it figured out. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just kind of like, I'm going to step into this. Right. And then when the pandemic happened, I pivoted, and then I moved forward. And I've been pivoting every year since then. I mean, honestly, if I told you where I'm at today, you'd be like, that's Amaryllis. How did you get from there to here? Fast forward now, I've worked with multiple clients. I've done multiple group trips. I have managed to keep my business afloat, right? And then through this evolution, one of the things that I started implementing for my clients was I realized that clients, oftentimes people plan trips, but they're not really kind of thinking about, okay, what are the adjustments that I have to make when I go visit this destination? What are the cultural nuances? What are the cultural differences that I have to account for? It's more like they'll think about what is the tipping culture. Can you hear that? I'm sorry.
Yeah. So we either have two options. It's not bothering me, but if it's bothering you, we can say this was a great live and we can hang up, or you can persist.
Give me 1 second. I'm just gonna get her to be quiet.
What's up, everybody? I'm gonna text my friend back while she's coming back. I don't have time, but we're gonna wrap up.
Okay, got it.
Listen. Let's skip to the good part, as they say, right? So tell me about how you see coaching other travel consultants now. Tell us about that, because it's my fault. We're late, but I have to.
It's equally mine too. But so one of the things that I started implementing in my business was I started helping to educate clients on the cultural nuances of the destination that they were going to. So I created, coming from the world of marketing, I created an email sequence that really walks them through all of the different cultural things that they're going to have to take into account: language, religion, etiquette, values, the history, the art, the music, all of those things that they're going to be faced with and is going to impact their trip, right? We talked about, I included practical tips and all this other information. And so one day I was having a conversation with another travel advisor, and I had told her that this is something I do for all my clients. She's like, what? She goes, you write all of that content? And I was like, I do. And she's like, oh my God. She's like, that's a lot of work. And I was like, well, I just assumed everybody kind of does that. Our job is to educate our clients so that they have all the information they need. And she's like, no, we don't all do this. And I was like, oh, she goes, we just don't have the time, physically don't have the time to do all of that. So she's like, you really should package that up. And I was like, I don't even know how I would do that. But it inspired me, and I started thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I could really like create templates. I can take a platform like Canva, I could create templates, and then I can package it by destination and sell them as like an email sequence for this particular destination. So last year, at the beginning of last year, I went to work, created everything, and started selling them.
Yay.
And so now all of a sudden I had this new target, right? This new market, which was travel advisors who were interested in really helping to expand their clients' knowledge of their destination. And so from that came this new kind of sub brand that I have called Cultural Passport. And then I started talking to agents. I was selling my packages. I got invited to speak at some travel summits about culture and why it's important and how it can help to enhance your business and help you sell more. So I went through that evolution, through that process. And now I'm in this place where I'm actually transitioning my business. And I told you this, it's like trying to turn around a big cruise ship where I'm still working with some clients, but now I'm creating all these other digital products that are really kind of centered around culture and either helping a client inform helping a travel advisor either inform their clients, or I'm creating like mini courses where we kind of look at what the cultural themes of a destination are, so that when you have a client who comes to you and says, hey, I'm interested in going to Puerto Rico, right? And I'm interested, here's the things I enjoy doing, here's what I love. You can kind of take this course and say, okay, Puerto Rico has these 5 or 6 cultural themes. How does it tie back to the client profile? And what kind of activities can I incorporate into this culturally rich itinerary that's going to help immerse them and give them a taste of what Puerto Rico's essence is, right?
I love it. Well, I love what you've done too, is like, what I'm seeing is like big picture, like we're talking a lot of tactics and like, cause this is what you do. You obviously love it. You eat it, you breathe it. But again, like big picture, whether people sell insurance, whether they sell information, whether they sell real estate, you being a corporate salesperson, Malcolm Gladwell says an expert is someone who spends 10,000 hours or more perfecting a craft. And the reality is, as humans, I don't know, like generically in our 40s, right? We have way more. We did the math one time in a masterclass, like just trust the math. Yeah. We have way more than 10,000 hours. And so it's like we're too close to our superpowers that we don't often see it. And we need an external friend, colleague, mentor, source to say, hold on, like you're allowed to iterate and innovate and evolve every single day, every single year. You should be. That's how we grow. If we're not growing, we don't change, right? But then also you're doing travel and you're doing groups and you're doing individuals and you're kind of changing how you're doing that, and you're wrapping it in culture because you've differentiated. Yeah. But now it's like the high picture, like the big picture is for everybody else watching this to really understand that like what your friend, colleague identified in you is like, oh, you're doing that. That came so innate to you to write extra things up, to help guide your clients down a path that you realized, of course, you could monetize it. The stuff that we're sitting on as our God-given natural like tendencies, that is the stuff that truly, when we start to help others with, is where that real ultimate fulfillment comes from. Like,
and I call those the duh things, right? Like the things that for you are kind of like duh, like yeah, you'd be surprised for how many people it's like, oh, I didn't even realize that.
Think of it, right? Because they're not you.
Yes.
Yeah.
So focus, if you're trying to figure out like, where can I shine? What can I do? What can I monetize? So how can I create a business? Focus on the things that come so naturally to you that you just assume that everybody else knows it or does it. And you'll be surprised how many people are like, oh my God, this is such great information. I didn't even know you could do this.
I know. It's so true. It's why I saw a whole framework on cold selling in the DMs.
Yeah.
Because it's so...
it's natural to you.
It's a super strength.
Yeah. So when I started to realize that, I'm like, oh, this whole idea of like my whole process for how I intake a new client, the questions that I ask to really kind of dig deeper and understand who they are a little bit, because sometimes now I'm at the point where I get clients that I've never met before, right? And so trying to understand who they are in a consultation call can be kind of difficult because it's limited time. But if you ask very pointed questions, you're able to kind of draw that out of them. And I think sometimes a lot of them are surprised, like when you ask a question like, what do you want out of this vacation? Like, what do you want out of this trip? How do you want to feel when you come back home? A lot of people probably don't really think through that when they're booking on their own. What do I want to feel when I come home?
Yeah, right. I've never asked myself. I want to feel relaxed because otherwise I need a vacation.
But some people say to me, like, I want to come back with a better understanding of this location, right? I want to feel invigorated. I want to feel new again, right? People go away for different reasons. Some people need relaxation. Some people need kind of like a departure from their day-to-day life, not because they're looking to seek relaxation, but they're seeking kind of like a life, like a different life outside of the life they live every day. So understanding that and then being able to tie that to a destination that's going to be able to deliver on that, there's an art to it. It's not just like, let me just choose any island, right? Like there is some skills that go into that. I don't want to say skills. I think that's something that could be taught, but there is a process. So I'm just kind of trying to take that process, figure out how to best communicate and educate other agents to utilize that if it's something that works for them.
So good. Okay, we need to wrap. This is so good.
I know. We can talk forever.
I know. And we did the other day for like an hour and a half. And here we are again. What's the best way for people to find you?
So you can send me an email at acoria. You see my last name there. My agency is called Ace Travels Agency. So it's acoria@acetravelsagency.com. I have a website, which is www.acetravelsagency.com. I'm also on
I'm like dissecting your last name. Like the second thing is easier. Say that again. Ace Travel Agency.
acetravelsagency.com. So Ace, like Ace of Hearts. No, Ace of 10 of Ace. I don't know. Like, like like the card sign, the Ace. Did I get that right? Yes. So anyways, doesn't matter. Ace Travels Agency. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok. I'm on every social media channel you can imagine. So you can definitely find me on social media also.
I love this. Thank you so much for getting together with me. Thank you for sharing so many say yes and figure it out moments. Like, thank you for being here. And
I'm sorry that we got off to a late start, everybody.
It really fundamentally is difficult. So thank you for that. All right. I will see you soon. Like, let's stay in touch. All the things. I can't wait to see where this 3, 4, 5.0 version of you being an amazing consultant to other travel agents.
Thank you. Likewise. And I know we're going to be working on some stuff together. So.
Woo! Okay. I can't wait.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone.